Hi, Ray Smith here. I'm looking at chapter 20 in my Real Jazz Pedagogy book, and just wanted to illustrate how we analyze chord progressions in jazz. A little different than how we would think about things classically when we're analyzing. So this is from page 138, 39, and 40 in the Real Jazz Pedagogy book. So the example one is a 2-5-1 in F major. This is the same way that we would probably look at this in classical. This being the 2-chord, 5-chord, and the 1-chord. And this would also be similar to classical if we took example 2, we go 1 to 6 to 2, 5, back to 1. In example 3, though, this is a little different. In classical analysis, we try to keep the chord progression all in the same key until we can prove it's modulated. In jazz, it modulates sometimes every measure. We just say, yeah, I did modulate. So this is 2-5 in C. When it goes here, we would have to call this 3-6 classically. Technically, it's not a 6 because it's dominant. It's really a 2-5 in a key a step higher, so it's a 2-5 in D. It goes back to the 2-5 in C, and then it goes to 2-5 in G flat, finally resolves. So if we were doing that classically, we have to try to say that the A flat, like what is this, a flat 6 minor to, I mean, it gets out of hand. No, it just modulated there. And when we're improvising, we actually handle the materials that way, because we're actually going to play in 6 flats in that measure. We're not going to try to somehow maintain that in the key of C, which would be absurd. So I'm going to play in the key of no sharps or flats. I'm going to play in the key of 2 sharps, back to no sharps or flats. Then I'm going to play in 6 flats, and then I'm going to play in 0 again, back to key of C. So this would be normal thinking for jazz players to just assume that it modulates that way. Now, it may indeed be functioning within the key of C in general, but we have to handle those measures as if they were in those other keys. So we've got to have great command over our key signatures, all of our scales and chords in all keys, because even in the course of 8 measures like that, we went through several keys. Here's example 4. This is one on the key of E flat. When I go to A minor D7, there's really nothing to do with E flat. If I tried to keep that in E flat, it would just be weird. So no, this is a 2-5 in the key of G. Then back to the 1 in the key of E flat. Then 2-5 in the key of F. And then interestingly, when it goes to 1, it's dominant. In this case, I would actually call it a 1. Usually we would call a dominant chord a 5, of course, but here it's functioning as if it were in blues. It's not a blues, but it's functioning as a 1 as it could in a blues. So I'm going to call it 1 as if it were in blues. So again, it's E flat. Now I'm in the key of G, back to the key of E flat. Now I'm in the key of F, but I go to F dominant instead of F major, as if it were blues. So that's how I would analyze that. Then number 5, this is on page 139 in the Real Jazz Pedagogy book. Number 5 is a 2-5 in minor. So, sorry, 2-5 in minor. So when it's a minor 2, it's half diminished. The dominant is going to be altered. In this case, I have a sharp 5 and a flat 9. Going to a minor chord, but with a major 7. If I just do that going to a minor chord, let me do that again. I'll just go to the plain minor. Wants to do this. It could actually be a plain minor. That does happen. But most of the time in a full jazz situation, I want to consider that the tonic minor has a major 7 on it, even though it has a flat 3. Okay, number 6. This is a 1-6-2-5 in a minor key. So I'm in this key. Then I've got a 2-5. me do that one more time. So in a minor key, 1, probably this way with a major 7, 2, so both the 6 and the 2 are half diminished chords. The dominant chord must be altered. Maybe I should take a moment. Maybe I should take a moment and explain why we have to alter the dominant. The dominant chord should always be the most tense chord. And so if I'm playing at a triadic level, such as in a hymn or early style periods, this is enough tension in the dominant chord to balance a triad. But when we're used to the 1 chord being and the 2 chord being, we need more tension. So what usually happens here then is that to be able to provide more tension, let me play it with the same amount of tension I did in the more Baroque level of tension. It sounds silly when the 2 and the 1 chord both have more tension than the 5 chord. So we've got to get more tension in the 5 chord. This is in a major 2-5-1. I do this by using the 6 instead of the 5 or the 13th. So I put the 9 and the 13 in there instead of the 5. Gives it more tension, so it balances here. Now if I'm in a minor key, now the tension is, this is the tonic. Could be this, or even this. There's a lot of tension here. My 2 chord is going to have at least as much tension, or more. Probably that. So now if I just play the same level of tension again, ridiculous. If I played even the same level of tension as the dominant chord is in a major 2-5-1 in jazz, so in other words, we play the dominant this same way, which worked here. But now if I put it in a minor situation, and then I play it like this, it's better, but it really doesn't have enough tension. It's the wrong color. We want it to sound like more like this. So the only way I can get enough tension in that dominant chord really is to alter it. So I say this, in a major 2-5-1, the dominant may be altered. In a minor 2-5-1, the dominant must be altered. And that's number 5 and number 6, we're going to function in minor keys. Let's look at number 7. This has 2 minor chords in a row. Going to here. Major, sorry. So in this case, the 2-5-1 happens here. We're really in the key of A flat. We got 2-5-1 and A flat. When I start on the F minor, it's really functioning as if it were a 6 in this case. So 6, 2, then 5, then 1. Now this major chord goes to the 4 chord level, then we modulate. So the first 5 bars are all in the same key. Therefore, when I'm playing the F minor as a 6, I'm not going to use a Dorian scale, I'm going to use an Aeolian scale that colors that in the correct key, functioning as a 6. When I go to the 2 chord, then I will use the Dorian. When I'm on the 5, Mixolydian. When I'm on the 1, major. When I go to the 4 chord, Lydian. This keeps it all in the same key. All those scales are actually on the key of 4 flats. Then I switch to 2-5-1 and C major. So let's look at number 8, which also illustrates the same situation where I have 2 major chords in a row. Normally, if you have 2 major chords in a row, the second major chord is functioning in the key of the first major chord. You can usually expect that. So if I'm, in this case, I'm playing a 2-5-1 in B flat. When it goes to the E flat major, it doesn't really sound like it changes keys. And there's nothing that would suggest it changes keys. It really is functioning in the key of the other major chord. Therefore, it's a 4 chord. So again, that would be Dorian, Mixolydian scales to the major scale, and then here I would have the Lydian scale because I don't want to have that colored in the wrong key. It needs to stay in the key of B flat, even though I'm playing E flat major. It's functioning in the key of B flat major. So that's similar to classical thinking there. Number 9. Okay, I have 2-5 in a major key. Then it goes up a half step. I mean a whole step. To a 2-5 in minor. So I'm not going to try to keep that all in one key again. That's going to be 2-5. The first one's 2-5 in the key of E. The second one's 2-5 in the key of F sharp minor. And then I go back to the 2-5 in the key of E and finally resolve there. So putting it all together, 2-5, and I'm going to call this 2, oh gosh. Yeah, okay. So putting it all together, 2-5 in the key of E to 2-5 in the key of F sharp minor to back to 2-5 in the key of E that resolves to E. Okay, number 10. Now this is a C minor chord. This is actually a C minor. What would happen in a C minor blues sort of a thing. I'm minor, and then I go to the 4 chord is also a minor. This is what happens if the blues functions in a minor key. And then I go to the 2, 5, 1. I would put the major 7s typically on those if I'm in a jazz setting. Major 7 on that's possible. So in this case, 1, 4, 2, 5, 1. Okay, here's number 11. Now we're in B flat major, B flat, and then it becomes dominant. That's going to resolve us then to this key. Now what about this chord? And that goes back to the key of B flat. This is an odd situation where when the B flat major becomes B flat dominant, then the dominant takes us to E flat major. That all makes sense. That B flat is functioning in its primary position as a dominant of E flat. However, when we go to A flat 7, you can see that it's not functioning in its normal habitat. A flat 7, we usually go to D flat major, and it goes to B flat major. It's just resolving up a step. Strange chord progression. Now, frankly, it's substituting for an F7, going to B flat, and it works because it's a substitute. But when that dominant chord functions in that odd position like that, I call it a secondary position, but I'm not using it in the same sense as a secondary dominant. It's like it's in a secondary position, not really functioning as natural habitat. Then I'm always going to put sharp 11. If I do have a dominant chord that's functioning in its primary position, then the most logical alterations that I might put on it, and jazz players do alter all the time, the sharp 5, the sharp 9, the flat 9, those are all going to be great sounding alterations. When I have the A flat 7 here where it's functioning in this odd position, then the sharp 11 is much better. It will sound great. The sharp 9, flat 9, sharp 5 will not sound so good in that place. So I kind of codify that as a principle. I'll play it again for you. Here's the 1 chord. This becomes dominant. This could frankly be altered in various ways and still be fine going to here. But when I go to the A flat, it needs this sharp 11, and then it goes back. Okay, let's look at number 12. This is our last one. So now I have the C major. When it goes up a step to this, it needs to be sharp 11. again, because the dominant chord is not functioning in its normal position, it's in a secondary kind of position, then the sharp 11 is going to be the sound. Going to the bridge. I'm going to modulate to F right there. I did that like the second inning, but so that principle is illustrated in the last two ideas, that if the dominant chord is not in its normal position, then I would sharp 11. If it is in its normal position, it can be played plain, but if I alter it, it would be sharp 9, flat 9, sharp 5 combinations. Not so much the sharp 11 on that. So that's just my thinking on how to analyze these chord progressions, how to think about these chord progressions. So I hope that's helpful.